Welcome everyone back to another Dragon Ball Legends video. My name is DFree. Here today, we will be taking a look at the brand new notice in the game about the disconnects and just dishonest acts as it pertains to Legends. Now, drop everything you're doing. If you haven't already seen my video last night, which is actually very well timed apparently, I put up a video last night / yesterday talking about how the dishonest acts and just bans and just things like that have been affecting the community. So make sure you check that out to get a better understanding for what is going on in this video. So that'll be down below in the description for you guys, but let's go ahead and jump in. So they did go ahead and put out a tweet, but I'll just go ahead and, I don't know if the tweet links here, but regardless, we'll go ahead and take a look at what they mentioned in game. So first thing, there's a couple of notices. So the first one is confirmed in-game issues. Thank you for your support of Dragon Ball Legends. We've confirmed the existence of the following issues and are now investigating them. The first one is, even if the problem is with your own connection quality, the message will say opponent's connection is unstable. Immediately after a penalty for unfair behavior is given, you will be unable to progress past the result screen. We apologize for the inconvenience we are causing, yada yada. And we're gonna come over here. Now, what we just read is actually important because they actually bring that back up here. But I'll come back to that once we've read this post, and I'll give you guys my thoughts on it. So, thank you for your support of Legends. Unfair behavior in PvP mode, such as deliberately disconnecting and using unfair methods or exploiting bugs to obtain rating points, is currently prohibited. It has always been prohibited. As this inhibits other users' enjoyment of the game, data regarding the number of disconnections, unfair play, and improper disconnections is being recorded. Furthermore, a policy of limiting access and revoking of rating points is being enacted. Again, those are all things that have been said before, something they've been doing. That's just them mentioning, hey, we're taking note of how many times you're disconnecting. And they're not outright saying, I don't think right there, that they're going to just go ahead and ban you. But they do wind up doing that. And then if it happens too much, they just reset your rating points. This is all stuff that's been a thing. We ask all users kindly to bear in mind the following points before taking part in PvP. Please ensure you have a stable Wi-Fi connection before playing. That is an obvious thing. Just to let you guys know how this is affecting people, I'm not going to say that, a lot of people have the issue where you get time banned. I'm not going to say it's never the player's fault. Let's just be honest. It sometimes could be your fault. Maybe you disconnected because your phone disconnected and you just didn't know. Or maybe you got a phone call, or maybe the app crashed and stuff like that. There are little things like that that could be your fault, although sometimes not all of it will be your fault. Like sometimes other stuff could kick in, like mods or whatever people are doing on the other end. But regardless, something that happens to me sometimes is if I'm playing while I'm traveling and I haven't turned off like the setting to auto join Wi-Fi, my phone will try to pick up any available local Wi-Fis, like Xfinity is something that I've signed into, so it'll try to sign into that. And that'll like basically mess up the game to the point where it'll just disconnect and you'll take that loss, stuff like that. So make sure that you're playing with a good Wi-Fi if you're playing, and if you're traveling, make sure you either turn off your Wi-Fi so it doesn't try to do what my phone sometimes does, or stuff like that. Because little things like that, just to give you an example, can ruin the experience and cause whatever happens to happen. As well as cases in which your opponent uses unfair means or disconnects matches that end due to your connection, or notifications from other ads will be deemed as subject to penalty. So let me explain this part. So when you get a notification, the game will try to delay the action. So what I mean by that is its first instinct isn't to disconnect or drop the connection. That could be, again, dependent on the phone you're on, whatever the case is, how that's all interacting with the game. But what it'll try to do when you get a notification for something, where you leave the app because another app kicks in and maybe it pops right in the middle of your screen, you accidentally tap it and it takes you there and you come back, you can do that stuff real quick and notice that nothing changed as far as the gameplay. You're still in the fight and stuff. But from the other player's perspective, they exhibit lag. And since that's the case, the game is just trying to lag and make sure you guys have as little latency as possible and your connection is as crisp as possible. So while you have that notification, the other end, they do have lag. So like if you watch my videos, sometimes I'll call people lag switchers because there are people that literally go on and do stuff like that intentionally, right? So that way the other player can have bad lag issues and then they themselves don't experience any sort of lag. Like it's really blatantly obvious when that's a thing. right? So since that's the case, the game tries to make up for that slack, and that's how the interaction is with the game. So they're saying here that in cases where somebody is basically intentionally doing that, your opponent uses unfair means, or they disconnect, regardless of how that happens, they just disconnect, matches that end due to your connection being the problem or your notifications from other apps are subject to penalties. So they're saying if by chance you happen to have a notification pop up, you leave the app for too long, the notification causes the game to drop connection somehow, whatever the interaction is, or if the match ends because of your connection, like I was saying, the Wi-Fi thing, that's something that could be a problem, whatever the case is. They're saying that that is subject to penalty, meaning it's your fault. They're literally saying if any of those things are happening, it is your fault. And if you got time banned because of that, again, it is your fault. If you get season banned because these things keep happening, again, they're saying it's your fault, literally, if it's due to your connection anyway. Notice in the other post, they said that that's an issue, that it doesn't tell you if it's your connection. So this has always been a thing. The game has always said the opponent's connection is unstable. Whether that's been your fault or not, it's never been clear. But apparently they're going to add in something that lets you know if it's your fault. If they're like, oh, it might say your connection's unstable, right? Depending on how the interaction is. So they're telling you that it's your fault if it's your fault anyway. Not always. They're not saying every single one. But if any of those situations applies to you, you are subject to a penalty. Please play somewhere with a good connection after checking your settings for other apps. They are 100% aware, because you see they mention it numerous times. They're 100% aware that this app and PvP and playing online, the infrastructure of that, does not mesh well with getting notifications from other apps. So one thing you can do to combat that is turn on Do Not Disturb. Turn on Do Not Disturb, you should be fine. If you're on Android, you can turn off notifications as well down at the very bottom. Like, I got a text since we've been recording. I got a DM and all that stuff. You can turn off in the game tools the notifications and stuff. You can turn off all that stuff. So just turn it off. So your phone calls, if you're on iOS, I guess you kind of get SOL, unless you turn off Do Not Disturb, because on the calls, they take up the whole screen. They just take over, and you got to shoot out of that and come back real quick. So like, and then also low power kicks in, and it's all right in the middle of the screen. You got to click close. Little things like that are enough to drop your connection. You've got to be aware of that. One thing that happens too is, like, if you have, and this is something I can tell you from experience, if you have your phone set to timeout after like 30 seconds, if you drop your phone, we'll put it down and it times out. If it times out for more than 5 seconds, it will probably drop your connection. You know, and just little things like that. So you got to be aware of that. Performance on unrecommended terminals is not guaranteed. Please properly download and use the app from the store. They're saying if you're using an APK, or if you're using some other form of playing the game like an emulator, whatever the case is, I would even go as much to say as to extend this to if you are using an unsupported device, because I believe they recently discontinued iOS, or not iOS. Was it iOS? Regardless, I think it was the iPhone 6 due to hardware specifications. And as you guys know, not every device is always compatible with every game. So if you have it still and you're able to update and play still fine, they're saying that, you know, in any of those scenarios, whether it's an emulator, an APK, a mod, or just whatever, they're not saying that everything's going to work as it should in those scenarios. We're also currently aware of an error in which a message saying opponent's connection is unstable is displayed, even when the issue is with the quality of your connection. Remember, I was talking about that. This message is due to be altered in a future update. So yeah, they're saying right there, they're going to add in a specific message to tell you if the issue is on your side of things. Now, I don't see that as, I don't see how that helps. It can't help. That doesn't help. If the issue is your fault, then I guess they're just saying, all that really does to me, like, if the issue's on my, if my fault's the issue, all that really tells me is, oh, well, I guess I did something wrong. My phone did something wrong without me knowing. And long story short, I guess I can't be mad at the opponent. That's all that tells me, right? So, and I guess that's all they're really going for. But none of this is a fix. That's not a fix. That's not a fix. Specifying who the issue is with, when in most cases it will be the opponent anyway because they're doing dishonest things, isn't a fix. And that's all they're really trying to tell you that they're doing here. And again, that's been the case for like forever, you know? In another potential update, we are looking into reviewing the system to allow, for instance, matches to continue even if the connection between you and your opponent is lost. Now that right there, that's a good one. That part is a good one. That right there is a good one. Because to me, what that says, either one of a couple things will happen. And a lot of games actually instate this, where if you lose connection to somebody in a PvP-oriented game, then when that person drops connection, the computer and the AI just basically plays from there and picks up the slack for that person. Like if you're up against somebody, they disconnect, it'll say, oh, opponent's disconnected, switching to versus AI, right? Or whatever the terminology is. And in that scenario, you can proceed like normal. Now, assuming you don't get the 1 RP, because when you face computer fighters, when you get to rank 50, all you get is 1 RP from that. So assuming you don't get 1 RP, this is fine. But even if you do get 1 RP, you know what? It's not too bad because it saves you from the time ban because you wouldn't be penalized. So that part in conjunction with the previous part isn't too bad. But again, they're trying to take measures to counteract the misconduct to make PvP a better place for everyone, which is fine. And I don't want to be too critical. We just got to wait and see how all that stuff turns out. So hopefully it all works out in the future. Like I said, I haven't experienced, and I'm going to knock on wood because I don't want to experience. I haven't experienced any time bans, and I play several matches a day, every day, and I just have fun with it, and I don't really experience lag, and I don't really experience a lot of weird things like that every so often, sure, but I do know there are some people that have experienced a lot of those things, and they're going to try to make it a point to clarify whose issue it is, I guess, so you can't be as mad about it if it's your fault. Even then, there's going to be some confusion, like, wait, what did I do? I didn't get a notification, whatever the case is. Guys, just if you're having issues with notifications, turn on Do Not Disturb, things of that nature. So we'll see what happens. They're talking about in future updates, so we'll see. Next long update, maintenance, I guess, should be when they instate some of this stuff. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll catch all of you guys in the next Dragon Ball Legends video. Have an awesome day, everyone, and take it easy, everybody.